Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today I will be giving you a guide on the best setup of weapons, armor, and utilities for the Berserker class in Hypixel Skyblock dungeons. If you guys enjoy, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that little bell for more Minecraft videos. Maybe we can get to 100 subscribers by April 21st? That would be great. Anyways, enjoy. So how are you supposed to play the Berserker class in dungeons? Well, this class is mainly based on dealing high amounts of melee damage as well as going very quick, killing your enemies at high speeds. So you're going to want weapons and armor that give tons of damage and strength buffs, but also a fair amount of survivability, so your enemies don't just one-shot you while you're running around killing. So the entrance floor of the catacombs is not that hard, so I'm just going to start with the setup for floor 1. So what weapons are you going to want for this floor? Well, you're going to want a cheap weapon with good damage. There are two earlier game weapons that give this, the Aspect of the End and the Raider's Axe. Both of these are great weapons for the early to mid game outside of dungeons, and can be used in floor 1 of dungeons as good starter weapons. If you are rich enough, you can use the sword called the Aspect of the Dragons. It is an amazing sword and gives more damage than the previous two weapons. I would suggest this over both the Raider's Axe and the Aspect of the End. Now that we know what weapons we are going to be using on floor 1, we are going to need some armor. This armor needs to give high damage, health, and defense. I would suggest you to use strong dragon armor. This armor is, yet again, a good mid-game armor set outside of dungeons, so you may already have this before you even think about starting dungeons. This armor gives good survivability and damage, exactly what we needed from an armor set for Berserker. If you have Spider Slayer 4, I would suggest you replace the helmet with a high kill tarantula. This helmet can help deal more damage and have more defense than the strong dragon helmet. If you are not wealthy enough to afford this armor set, get some either epic or legendary zombie soldier armor. It gives a decent amount of health and defense, but it's not as good as the armor set I previously mentioned. If you are having trouble dying on this floor with strong dragon armor, you might want to hot potato book it. It will give a little bit of extra health and defense, which is very essential in dungeons as a berserker. If you are still dying and everything you try doesn't work, as a last resort, throw on a Bonzo's mask. I would not suggest you do this unless absolutely necessary. Now that we have a good armor set, we need utility items that will help us in dungeons. Well, you are going to want an Aspect of the End, even if you are not using it as your main floor 1 weapon. You're going to want it for its right-click ability. It allows you to teleport out of sticky situations. You're also going to want some form of Power Orb. There are 4 tiers of the power: Radiant, Mana Flux, Overflux, and Plasma Flux. They all come from the Wolf Slayer collection. Any one of these is good, especially for handling the Blood Room and whilst fighting mini-bosses such as Lost Adventures and Angry Archaeologists. These require Wolf Slayer, so as you can see, doing Slayers before dungeons is very essential, because a lot of the gear that you need from dungeons comes from Slayers. You're also going to want the casual dungeon items: Super Boom TNT, Spirit Leaps, and a Diffuse Kit. All of these will come in handy at some point in time during every dungeon run. For pets, there are many options you can choose from. If you are not having trouble with surviving, use a damage-based pet, such as the Wither Skeleton, Griffin, or Tiger. If you use Wither Skeleton, you are going to want the legendary variant. If you are wealthy enough, get yourself an Ender Dragon. You can use a tier boosted one if needed. If you are having trouble surviving, switch your pet to a blue whale pet, preferably legendary. It gives a good amount of health, a bonus health, which is really essential for the Berserker class. If you are wealthy enough, you are going to want the Baby Yeti pet. This pet gives defense based on your strength. Any rarity available for this pet works. For reforges, you are either going to want Sharp, Spicy, or Fabled on your weapon. Sharp if you need crit chance, Spicy if you need crit damage, and Fabled beats them all, but is applied via a 1 million coin reforge stone called the Dragon Claw. For your armor, you are going to want Fierce for strength and crit damage, and Pure for crit chance. If you can afford it, get Ancient on your armor, but this reforge is not good unless you have a high Catacombs level, or Catacombs 16 to 17 or higher, and is applied via the Precursor Gear Reforge Stone, which costs around 800k from the auctions. For your talismans, it all depends on what build of Berserker you want. If you want very high strength paired with the Baby Yeti pet, reforge your common, uncommon, and rare talismans to Forceful, and your epic, legendary, and mythic talismans to Strong. If you want a balance of crit damage and crit strength, you should apply the Dark Orb Reforge Stone to your common, uncommon, and rare talismans, giving them the Shaded Reforge, and you want Strong on your epic, legendary, and mythic talismans. If you want bonus attack speed with high damage, get Shaded on your common, uncommon, and rare talismans, Strange on your epic and mythic talismans, and get Bloody on your legendary talismans. There are plenty more builds, and if you want me to make a talisman reforge build guide, leave a suggestion in the comments section. Now that you have finished the starter floor in Dungeons, you are going to want to play floor 2. This floor is very survivability based, but you also need good damage, which is not a problem with Berserker. The main problem you are going to have is survivability. Tip: I would suggest you leech off of carries in floors 1 through 6 before starting to do floor 2. It will give you access to better armor and weapons that will be very useful for floors 2 through 6. For weapons, there are many choices to choose from. There are 2 in general that I would suggest though. If you want a strength-based Berserker build, you're going to want to get the Flower of Truth. This weapon gives massive amounts of strength, and the right-click ability is very useful for clearing rooms. It has 100 base damage and gives 360 strength. This paired with the Baby Yeti will give you a bunch of extra defense, which is exactly what you need for survivability. If you're going to want to be crit damage based, use the sword called the Livid Dagger. This sword is insane, giving 100% crit chance and an additional 100% bonus attack speed. It also gives plus 50% crit damage and plus 80 strength and 210 base damage. This sword is crazy. It's one of the best swords in the game right now for damage. So which one of these should you use? If you have the money for the Baby Yeti and are having trouble surviving and want to be strength based, use the Flower of Truth plus a Baby Yeti. If you are not having problem with surviving, use the Livid Dagger plus a damage based pet. Also, the Flower of Truth is better than the Livid Dagger for clearing rooms. If you can afford it, I would suggest getting both, using the Livid Dagger for mini bosses and Flower of Truth for clearing. But if you can't, choose one based upon what you need in dungeons. The one problem with both of these weapons is that they are both around 8 million coins to purchase, so it is completely understandable if you cannot afford one of these weapons. If you cannot afford one, go ahead and get the Spirit Sword. This weapon gives the same base damage as the Livid Dagger, and grants an additional 50 strength. It also has a special ability that makes you deal more damage to undead monsters depending on how low your health is. It is also usable as a spirit ability after death. There are more weapons that are accessible to Berserker, so choose as you like, but these 3 are the main good ones to choose from. For armor, you are going to want an armor set that gives you an equal amount of survivability and damage. I would suggest you get Shadow Assassin armor. This armor is the best Berserker set other than Necron. This armor will last you until you can start getting Necron armor, so you want to get as much of this as you can. I would suggest, if you cannot afford the chestplate, get a legendary Zombie Knight chestplate. This chestplate is a good substitute for the Shadow Assassin chestplate, giving less damage and survivability. If you can afford it, get the full set, but it's around 35 to 40 million coins. This is quite pricey, but this setup will last you all the way through floor 6. So the current setup I have talked about, Livid Dagger plus Flower of Truth, full Shadow Assassin, and a Baby Yeti, will get you all the way through floor 6. It does cost around 100 million coins, but this will be pretty much your endgame set, and it's also amazing outside of dungeons. For utility items, you are going to want the Aspect of the End, a Power Orb, and the casual dungeon items. For pets, you're going to want to keep the same as I previously mentioned, depending on what stats you need in dungeons. For Reforges, I would suggest your Flower of Truth to be reforged to Withered, and any other weapons to be reforged to Fabled. Your armor should either be Fierce or Ancient. Your talismans should be reforged as so: Common, Uncommon, Rare on Shaded, and Epic, Legendary, and Mythic talismans on Strong. With the next few floors, the setup I discussed earlier will be used in pretty much every floor, so just make sure you are buying upgrades as you can afford them, progressively working towards the final setup. So if you haven't already, go watch the floor 2 tutorial. Now that you have gotten your full Shadow Assassin armor and a good weapons base, you are finally reaching the end stages of the catacombs. You're going to want to purchase a floor 7 completion. For weapons, you are going to want to stick with the Livid Dagger and Flower of Truth until you can afford a Valkyrie. This sword is the best Berserker weapon, but it's quite expensive, so until you can afford that, stick with the two I mentioned before. Make sure to get Soul Eater on both, for it is the best ultimate enchantment for weapons. For armor, you are going to want to replace as much of the Shadow Assassin armor as you can with Necron's armor. This armor gives more damage and more survivability than Shadow Assassin armor. This is the endgame armor for Berserker. You're going to want to, when you can afford it, Fuming Potato Boat your Necron's armor once you get it, and apply ultimate enchants such as Last Stand or Legion. For utility, use the Aspect of the End, a Power Orb, and the casual dungeon items. For pets, have a Baby Yeti with Antique Remedies as the held item. For Reforges, Ancient on the armor, Fabled or Withered on the weapons, and Shaded on the Common, Uncommon, and Rare talismans, and have Strong on the Epic, Legendary, and Mythic talismans. You are finally to the end of the catacombs. You are finally onto completing floor 7s. For this floor, you are going to want full recombobulated Ancient Necron's armor and a max Wither Valkyrie with ultimate Wise 5. For pets, you want the Baby Yeti holding Antique Remedies and a Wither Skeleton for the boss fight. Once you have reached this point, it's now time to memorize secrets, puzzle rooms, and the fastest way to get S+ runs on floor 7. I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial on the best setup for Berserker, and if you did, make sure to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button and hit that little bell for more Minecraft videos. See you guys next time.